Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are back at my new favorite place to be adding plants, the berm. Yes, remember we have installed this privacy berm between the nursery and our house, and we are landscaping both sides of the berm to create 4 seasons of interest, lots of fun structure and texture and color, plants that will welcome pollinators and wildlife, birds, all sorts of things. This is where I get to have lots of fun, and I certainly have been enjoying myself planting this area. Today we are going to add 2 shrubs to this location. First of all, we're going to go ahead. This is new on the market within the last, year or 2. This is a honeysuckle. This is Scentsation from Proven Winners. Let me show you the tag because I know how much y'all love the tags. All right, so there is your tag and your information. So if you have lots of questions, you can go to provenwinners.com, but I'm just gonna give you the rundown on it. Now, if you're in the South or you have honeysuckle that grows naturally in your area, you're probably like, Jenny, why in the world are you gonna plant honeysuckle in this spot? It is going to be a pain in your rear. Well, I certainly don't hope so. And this is going to be a different honeysuckle than what we are used to here in the South. Here in the South, we have honeysuckle that grows basically can be a noxious weed in our native woods, right? Because it will climb and trellis through anything. We love and adore honeysuckle in the late spring, early summer because it has that most delicious fragrance to it. Scentsation will do the exact same thing as far as your fragrance and your flowers, but it's going to continue to bloom throughout the entire growing season. This plant is hardy in zones 4 to 9, so extremely adaptable, right? So it can go in a whole range of zones and all across the nation. It is going to be a full sun plant. That means you have to have at least 6 hours of direct sunlight or more for this to do well. It is non-invasive. That is the key about Scentsation. They have taken those pesky characteristics out of the wild honeysuckle and have come up with Scentsation, so it is not invasive. It is of course fragrant, just like the honeysuckle that fragrance we love, and it is long blooming. It will bloom from spring to summer. I'm combining words, and it will get 10 feet tall, 2 to 4 feet wide. So Jerry and I were talking about this, and I've been wanting to plant this in our landscape, but I didn't have a location for it to climb. Because it is a honeysuckle, it is going to intertwine and it needs something to cling onto. The fence is going to be a perfect spot for it. So I am going to put 2 of them into the landscape, roughly on each side of the thundercloud purple plum tree. That way it can grow up the fence and out and spread out, and it will be balanced on both sides. So that is the Scentsation that we are going to add. Next, we are going to add the sweet talker viburnum. This is a really fun viburnum. First of all, it is an evergreen, so we like that, especially in this berm. It's going to give me year-round interest and structure. It is already starting to take on those beautiful kind of reddish hues for the fall color. It's got some green mixed in with some red. Now, sweet talker is going to be a pretty good size. It's going to be 8 to 10 feet tall, but about, let me get my specs, 3 to 5 feet wide. Now, I can prune this. If it gets a little too big, I can easily prune it, once a year to keep it in its manageable size. It is a sun to part shade plant, so that means you need at least, I would say, 5 hours of direct sun for this to grow really well. It is going to be hardy in zones 7 to 8. So it pretty much is kind of in a very specific planting range. For us, it will be perfect because we are North Carolina, zone 7B, and it's going to give me some height and some interest, and where I have my trees that give me that height and interest, but they're deciduous. My sweet talker is going to be evergreen and give me year-round interest with some height and more vertical, because it's going to be just basically kind of straight up, where my trees have that trunk and then the canopy on it. The reason it's called sweet talker is because it is one of the absolute first plants to put on blooms in the spring. They're these really sweet little delicate kind of pink and white bell-shaped flowers that have a delicious fragrance to it. So you're going to have beautiful structure, beautiful fragrance, nice early blooms on it. You know spring is coming when your sweet talker blooms. Very, very nice. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. So what we're going to do is all of this is going to go, both of these types of plants are going to go relatively around the thunderhead, thundercloud. I have a thunderhead and a thundercloud. I always have to stop and think about it a second. For the thundercloud purple plum. So we're going to flip the camera around, get everything set up, and let me show you exactly where we are going to put these into the berm. Alrighty, my friends, so I have got the sweet talkers and the sensations placed. I think you can see it behind me. So basically I just went in a panel and a half on each side of the thundercloud plum and put the sweet talker in the center of that panel. Now it is pulled forward a bit because sweet talker can get 3 to 5 feet wide. Now, is it okay if it gets nice and big and then some of the branches go on the back side of that fence? Of course, absolutely. But this is not something that I want to plant slap up against the fence. What I do want to plant slap up against the fence is the honeysuckle. So I have placed the honeysuckle on to each of the outside of those sweet talkers, and I'm going to plant it like right against the base of the fence because I obviously want it to climb up the fence. With that fence, it can go straight up the post or it can go on those 3 rails that come out from it. So that will be a great spot for both of those plants. So without further ado, I'm going to grab my power planter auger. I am going to aug my holes. Everybody's going to get some biotone fertilizer. We always use our biotone fertilizer because that is specifically for root growth. And that is what I want when I'm planting my perennials, trees, and shrubs. Especially this time of year, I want massive root growth. So when the summertime heat hits, those plants are really well established and very happy. That biotone fertilizer is a great starter fertilizer, so I do not need to use the biotone and then use an additional fertilizer on top. I made that mistake one time. It was overkill. Don't do that. Only use your biotone, and then if you're in the active growing season, later on you can come back and add a slow release fertilizer. Biotone is enough for the beginning. So it's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to do like what we always do. Aug the holes, get the plant out, with the biotone in the hole, make sure everybody's nice and established. I am going to plant these a little bit high. We have clay soil, so I want my shrubs to be a little bit high. That way they don't sit in lots and lots of water, and those roots will have good drainage on them and they don't rot, because we do not want that. So without further ado, we are going to get to planting. Okay, so we have got the Sensations planted, and because this is a trailing vine, right, I do need to get it started. Otherwise, it's going to create this nice great ground cover here for me with some of it going up on the fence. This is the same rubber twine. I have it in our Amazon store, so if you go down to the video description, I have a link for that. So just click on that link. It'll take you to our Amazon store. We get a purchase of a percentage of everything that you order through that. But these are things that we actually use every day here in the gardens. This is that soft rubber twine. It is a hollow black stretchy twine. that I really like. It's super easy to deal with. I use it mainly for my climbing roses, or whenever I need to really kind of secure a plant to whatever it needs to be secured to. It's nice and soft, it is stretchy, and it works great. I like it that it's black because of course it will blend in a lot better than like a green twine or some sort of natural color. Once you get your honeysuckle going, you're not going to have to continually come back in here and attach it. This is just to get things going. It is not the active growing season for my honeysuckle. That will be in warmer temperatures. So for now, I just want to get it really kind of twined and tied up really loose, and just so that it'll hold it nice and secure up to the post, but without squeezing it or breaking any of the branches. Super easy to do. It is not rocket science. And then any little twigs that are sticking out, as it grows and fills in, you can just come in and just kind of tuck them under if need be. Honeysuckle by default is going to be a very nice grower. We just planted these in the pots late this summer, early this fall, and it had already had really good roots going down in a 3-gallon pot. So honeysuckle is a very happy, nice, fast grower. So I mean, basically we're just going to kind of do that and then just leave it alone. I'm going to go do the other one. I think it has a little bit more longer trailers on it, so it'll be a little bit easier to get it up. But yeah, it's pretty simple. All right, my sweet friends, so now just like that, we have added more interest to this berm. Not only do you, when you're planting your gardens, do we want to think about like flowers and, you know, that spring color, but we also want to think about your vertical interest and your horizontal interest. So that sweet talker definitely gives me that vertical interest. It is an evergreen. It is going to give me flowers with fragrance in the early spring. Evergreen color that's going to change throughout this season. But it goes up, right? It's 8 to 10 feet tall, 3 to 5 feet wide. It is going to be a beautiful presence on each side of that thundercloud purple plum. Just putting them in, and they're like 2 feet tall, they already look fantastic, and I really like the color and the texture of them in the ground. So that is definitely a vertical interest. Now with this Scentsation honeysuckle, that's going to be more of a horizontal, it's going to be like vertical and horizontal, right? Because it is going to grow up and climb the post, but then it also is going to go horizontal on those rails. So it is going to bring lots of good interest. We have found it'll be interesting to see how this honeysuckle does throughout the winter, because we really have found that honeysuckle, like the native honeysuckle, can almost be like a semi-evergreen. You'll still have some leaves on there, and right now these Scentsations have gorgeous color on them, like gorgeous foliage, and they have been outside. They have not been in the greenhouse. So what you see is what they should look like this time of year. They have gone through the freezes and are doing really well. So hopefully we'll have some sort of foliage on it throughout the winter, but then during the growing season, of course, right, spring, summer, and fall, here we are in November, we're gonna have interest to it. Long blooms, gorgeous, delicious fragrance that is going to be both vertical and horizontal in the flower beds. Super excited about it, love it. This whole space around that purple plum is just really growing and developing, especially on this side of the berm. I'm loving it. So we appreciate it. Hopefully you found some things that you like. So if you're in, especially in that southern zone with that sweet talker, zone 7 or 8, check out your local garden center, ask them about it. That Scentsation being in zones 4 to 9, extremely adaptable, very versatile. Check out your local garden center, see if they have it, add it to your garden. As always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends. You just can't be still, can you?